Welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're really getting into a massive question, one that kind of shakes things up. Where did life on Earth actually begin? We've been looking at some fascinating sources, and they push this incredible idea. What if, your cells, your DNA? What if it has cosmic roots? What if life didn't start here?
It's really interesting how science, proper cutting-edge science, is now seriously looking again at panspermia. That's the hypothesis, basically, that life itself, or maybe just the essential bits needed to build life, came from somewhere else, somewhere out there in the universe, and then, traveled to Earth.
Right, like delivered by comets or meteorites, maybe even just interstellar dust floating through space. It really makes you ask, doesn't it? Are we fundamentally aliens on our own planet? And for those who follow this stuff, panspermia, from the Greek pan, aural, and sperma, seed, the idea itself isn't brand new. I mean, the Greek philosopher Anaxagoras was talking about something like this thousands of years ago. But what's different now is the level of scientific interest. It's really gained traction.
It really has. And it's not just one simple idea either. When scientists talk about panspermia, they usually break it down into three main types. First, you've got lithopanspermia. That's the idea of microbes hitching a ride on rocks, blasted off one planet by an impact, eventually landing on another, like from Mars to Earth, perhaps.
Okay, life traveling on rocks between planets. Makes sense.
Then there's radiopanspermia. This one's a bit different. It suggests tiny life forms, maybe spores, could be pushed through space by the pressure of starlight itself, maybe riding on dust particles.
Pushed by light. Wow.
Yeah. And the third one, which is, definitely more out there, is directed panspermia. This was famously suggested by Francis Crick and Leslie Orgel back in '73. The idea that an advanced alien civilization might have deliberately sent life here, seeded Earth.
Okay, directed panspermia definitely feels like science fiction territory, I have to say. But the other two, natural panspermia, traveling on rocks or dust, those are being taken pretty seriously by astrobiologists, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very seriously. The conversation has shifted,
Yeah.
It used to be focused on, could life even survive the journey through space? But now, with what we know, the question's more like, okay, it could, but did it? And that leads us to some pretty amazing discoveries about life's toughness.
Right. So survival, that's the key hurdle, isn't it? Could life actually make it through the vacuum, the radiation, all of that? And our sources are pretty clear on this. We now know some organisms definitely can. It's quite mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah. Take Deinococcus radiodurans. They call it Conan the bacterium, which tells you something. It can handle insane levels of radiation, survive the vacuum. It's incredibly tough.
Conan the bacterium, I like that.
And then you have tardigrades. Water bears. Everyone loves tardigrades, right? These microscopic guys are just unbelievable. They can go into this dormant state, survive the vacuum of space, extreme temperatures, radiation, and then you just add water and they can, come back to life, even after decades.
Decades. That's incredible.
And it's not just lab stuff. We have actual data. Hornick and colleagues back in 2008, they showed that spores of Bacillus subtilis, a common bacterium, survived for years attached to the outside of the International Space Station.
Outside the ISS, exposed to everything.
Exposed to space, yeah.
Yeah.
For years.
So, okay, this idea of microbes essentially hibernating on a rock, getting blasted off a planet, floating through space, and then landing somewhere else, it's not just a thought experiment anymore. It seems genuinely possible. And that reminds me of the ALH 84001 meteorite, the one from Mars. That caused a huge stir in the 90s.
Oh, absolutely. ALH 84001. When they found those structures inside that looked, potentially like fossilized microbes. Controversial, yes, extremely controversial. But regardless of whether they were fossils, the whole episode forced the scientific community to seriously grapple with the idea of interplanetary life transfer. Could it actually happen? How would we even recognize it?
Exactly. It opened the door.
So if life can travel and it can survive, where might it have come from? And here's where it gets really interesting. Because maybe, just maybe, early Earth wasn't actually the best place for life to get started.
That's a huge point, isn't it? We always assume life started here because, we're here. But the sources we looked at point towards early Mars as a really strong contender, billions of years ago.
Right. Think about it. Ancient Mars likely had a thinner crust, maybe less violent tectonic activity than early Earth. It might have cooled down faster, and importantly, its chemistry might have been more suitable. We know it had lakes, rivers, environments that could have been more stable, perhaps.
And didn't Benner and his colleagues mention specific chemicals, things needed for life's building blocks?
Yes, exactly. Their work around 2010 highlighted borate and molybdenum. These elements are thought to be pretty crucial for stabilizing ribose.
Ribose, that's the R in RNA, a key part of early genetics.
Precisely. And the argument is that these minerals, borate and molybdenum, might have been much more available, more concentrated, on the surface of early Mars compared to early Earth.
So Mars might have had a better chemical toolkit for prebiotic chemistry the steps before life.
That's the idea. It makes Mars a prime suspect, not just as a place that could have supported life, but maybe as the place where the chemical reactions leading to life were more likely to happen. And if life did start on Mars first, well, we know rocks travel between Mars and Earth. Meteorites do it all the time. Life could have just hitched a ride.
So we could actually be Martians in a sense, our ultimate ancestors.
It's a definite possibility. It shifts the whole perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe Earth wasn't the cradle. Maybe it was more like the nursery where life arrived and then flourished.
Okay, so if this is plausible, if life came from space, maybe from Mars, shouldn't we see some evidence of that in our own biology, like a cosmic signature?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe billion-dollar. Our genetic code, the DNA and RNA system, it's the same across all known life on Earth, bacteria, trees, us. We all use the same fundamental operating system. Universal here, yes, but we have no idea if it's universal everywhere. If we found life, say on Mars or Europa, that used a completely different system, different amino acids, different genetic bases, that would be huge. Scientists call it searching for a second genesis, proof that life started independently right here on Earth, or at least started more than once.
But what if we don't find that? What if everywhere we look, assuming we find life, it uses the same basic code as us?
Well, that's the flip side. If life only seems to have started once, using this particular biochemistry, then the idea that it started in one place and spread becomes much more compelling.
Spread through panspermia.
Exactly. Maybe started on Mars, maybe somewhere else entirely, and then seeded Earth, and potentially other places too.
And doesn't this tie into the idea of LUCA, the last universal common ancestor?
It does, yeah. The fact that all life traces back to this single ancestral point, LUCA, suggests life got going quite decisively, quite early on. Carl Woese wrote about this back in 2002. This genetic bottleneck, as it's sometimes called, might hint that life established itself very rapidly. Some argue perhaps too rapidly for it all to have happened purely from scratch here on Earth in the available time. It adds another layer to the panspermia argument.
So the idea that life might have begun out there on Mars, maybe even further afield on a comet or from another star system entirely, it doesn't make Earth less special, does it?
Not at all. I think it does the opposite. It connects us to something vastly bigger. It expands our origin story, makes it cosmic. We wouldn't just be creatures of Earth, but children of the universe, in a very real sense.
Descendants of the void. Tiny organisms clinging to rocks, traveling across the dark for who knows how long, until finding a home here.
It's a pretty profound thought.
It really is. So, next time you look in the mirror, just pause for a second. You might be looking at the universe itself finally waking up on planet Earth. This has been a fascinating deep dive, exploring some truly mind-bending ideas. We hope it's given you something to think about. Until next time, stay curious.
The universe is full of surprises. Maybe the biggest one is us.